Hello and welcome to the Hope Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Schmalhofer, and this is episode number 63 and the podcast episode for July. The episode today is sort of a follow-on to a recent episode called the Top 5 Recovery Slogans. In that May episode, I looked at the top 5 recovery slogans and listed what I thought were perhaps the top 5 recovery slogans, at least at that point in time. For this episode today, I will take a different approach, and I will focus on the perspective or theme, if you will, of the top recovery slogans for help today, for help right now. So if you are struggling right now, this episode will provide 5 recovery slogans for help right now, for help today, so that you can continue on one day at a time and continue on in your recovery another day clean and sober. And so today the focus is on the top 5 recovery slogans for help today, for help right now. And in addition, I will also look at the biblical connections as well. And now let's start with the first of the top recovery slogans for help today. And the first slogan for help today is keep it simple. It seems that people in general always tend to overcomplicate things. And this is especially true for those in recovery. The inclination is to overcomplicate recovery, to overanalyze recovery and the actions and decisions and steps that are needed for recovery. The tendency is to overcomplicate things. But this first step is a great reminder to keep it simple. There are many quotes in the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book that mention the word simple regarding the AA program. But perhaps this quote in the foreword to the 3rd edition of AA describes this principle of keep it simple in a basic and easy to understand way. When it says this: in spite of the great increase in the size and span of this fellowship, at its core, it remains simple and personal. Each day, somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another alcoholic, sharing experience, strength, and hope. End quote. This quote does a great job to describe just how simple the AA program is, and how simple the 12-step program is as well. Recovery starts when one alcoholic reaches out to help another alcoholic. What a beautiful description of how this program is both simple and personal. It is simple and personal as we connect with others to offer them help. Certainly, the keep it simple principle includes making the practical and simple changes regarding people, places, and things. And this is critical. But the 12-step program is simple and personal in another way as well. It is clear from the AA Big Book and the Narcotics Anonymous book that one of the main aspects of this simple program is that it includes God, that it is a spiritual program, that just as we need to connect with others, we need to connect with God too. NA states that this program is unlike any other program in the history of mankind. When NA describes this great truth on page 87, when it says, for the first time in man's entire history, a simple way has been proving itself in the lives of many addicts. It is available to all of us. This is a simple, spiritual, not religious program known as Narcotics Anonymous, end quote. And the big book of AA on page 52 expands upon this spiritual perspective when it says this: when we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon the Spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. What a great quote. The Bible speaks to the same idea when it says in Psalm 118, verse 8, it says, "It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man." End quote. For you today, remember to keep it simple. Recovery starts when one addict reaches out to help another addict. And the simple and primary focus is that the 12-step program includes God, that it is a simple spiritual program, and you can trust in the power of God. The second slogan for help today is, "It is the first drink that gets you drunk." Many individuals have expressed their amazement at this simple and yet profound principle. Yes, it is the first drink that gets you drunk. And when they finally grasp this simple truth, it does seem profound. The AA Big Book says on page 43, it says this: "Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power." End quote. If you don't take that first drink, you will not get drunk. The AA quote indicates this defense against the first drink comes from your higher power. And so again, the God factor comes into play. The spiritual component comes into play. Perhaps this slogan and principle seems to be too simple, but it is right in line with the first slogan of today, which is keep it simple. Yes, it is the first drink that gets you drunk. The passage in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8 gives sound guidance as it seems to be related to this idea of the first drink. When it says this: "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." End quote. Do not underestimate your enemy. As AA says on page 58, remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. End quote. What a great AA quote, which is, in many ways, is very consistent with the Bible quote that speaks of your enemy, the devil. Do not underestimate your enemy of alcohol or drugs. They are cunning, baffling, and powerful. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. For you today, this slogan is a simple and yet powerful principle. I encourage you to embrace the truth of this slogan and principle. It is the first drink that gets you drunk. So do everything necessary to avoid that first drink or that first drug. Do not underestimate your enemy, your opponent of alcohol or drugs. But remember, there is one who has all power. That one is God. And He can help you to have success in recovery. The third slogan for help today is help is only a phone call away. The topic for today is all about help for today, and what better slogan and principle than help is only a phone call away. This principle is so important if you are struggling. Keep it simple and reach out for help. Call someone, go to a meeting, go to church, go to a recovery center. Reach out in some way for help. Yes, if you are struggling, keep it simple and reach out for help. NA says on page 83, it says this: if we are hurting, and most of us do from time to time, we learn to ask for help. We find that pain shared is pain lessened. Members of the fellowship are willing to help a relapser recover and have insight and useful suggestions to offer when asked. End quote. The Bible also seems to speak directly about this idea of calling out for help. And yes, it is important to call out to others for help, such as your sponsor, a member of your recovery group, a trusted friend, or even your pastor. But it is also important to remember you can call out to God for help. When you are struggling to drink or to use, call out to others for help, but also call out to God for help. As Psalm 86 verse 7 says simply, "In the day of my trouble, I will call upon you, for you will answer me." Call to God, pray to God, and He will answer you. Even if you're not sure how to pray, just call out to God for help in your own words, and He will answer you. And perhaps He will answer you in a way you never expected, by giving you the strength and the courage to resist that first drink, or perhaps by bringing just the right person to you at just the right time for help. For you today, if you are struggling, remember help is only a phone call away, and God is only a prayer away. Many people are ready and wanting to help you, and God is ready and wanting to help you as well. The fourth slogan for help today is nothing is so bad a drink won't make worse. This is a simple and yet profound slogan and principle. In a way, it seems that even in recovery, bad things will still happen. Even if you are clean and sober for many months or years, bad things will still happen. But a drink will only make them worse. Yes, sometimes bad things happen, even terrible and tragic things happen. But a drink or a drug will absolutely only make it worse. Because for the alcoholic or the drug addict, it will not stop there. The drinking and the drugging will only spiral out of control until all the bad things you started with will now be overcome with many brand new problems from your drinking. The AA Big Book has much to say about drinking making matters worse. But this quote from page 314 describes this principle quite well when it says this: "It took about 3 months for me to realize I was my problem, and drinking made my problem much worse. The other substances were simply tools to control my drinking. Given a choice, I'd take a drink over the other stuff in a heartbeat. Angry doesn't begin to describe how I felt when I had to admit I was an alcoholic." End quote. Yes, drinking only made the problems much worse. The NA book on page 14 speaks to this topic when it says this: through drugs, we try to avoid reality, pain, and misery. When the drugs wore off, we realized that we still had the same problems, and they were becoming worse. We sought relief by using again and again, more drugs more often. We sought help and found none." End quote. It is so important to understand and accept this slogan and this principle that nothing is so bad a drink won't make worse, because it can provide you help for today, help as you face problems even today, because you will still have problems of life. Bad things will still happen, but now you can face them without alcohol and without drugs. As you embrace this principle, you will understand that whatever you are facing, even many very bad things, that a drink would only make matters much worse. A drink would only make matters worse for you, for your family, and your loved ones. Psalm 23, verse 4, relates well to the struggle of life and how we should respond when it says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." End quote. Yes, even though you go through many difficult times of life, remember that God is there. He is there with you, and He will help you and comfort you. For you today, accept and understand this principle of help for today, so that when bad things happen, when you are faced with new struggles of life, you will not drink or use, but you will be reminded that God is with you, and He will help you and comfort you. The fifth slogan for help today is, "I can't, He can, I think I'll let Him." In many ways, this reflects the first 3 steps of the 12 steps in a condensed version that simply says, step 1, I can't, step 2, He can, and step 3, I think I'll let Him. For help today, this slogan and principle is quite important because it again brings God into the picture. This principle is all about God, just as the 12 steps are very much about God. And for you to be successful in recovery, for you to have help today, it is important for you to consider just what this principle means for you. AA on page 45 talks about how important God is in recovery. When it says, lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how are we to find this power? And later, and it means, of course, that we are going to talk about God. End quote. Regardless of what your past experience has been with church or church leaders, or even your past views on God, I encourage you to consider God in a fresh new way. To consider that there are very good reasons that the 12 steps talk so much about God. Also, the NA book on page 94 has some dramatic words to say about God and recovery when it says, surrendering our will puts us in contact with a higher power who fills the empty place inside that nothing could ever fill. We learned to trust God for help daily. Living just for today relieves the burden of the past and the fear of the future. We learn to take whatever actions are necessary and to leave the results in the hands of our higher power. End quote. This is a great quote, and it is especially related to our topic of For Help Today. As this NA quote says, we learn to trust God for help daily. And yes, help is needed each and every day. And we can trust God to help us daily. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6 is a passage that relates well to this recovery slogan and principle when it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." As you trust God, He will direct your paths. He will provide the help you need for today. For you today, understand that you need a power greater than yourself, that you need God in your life. And as you trust God with all your heart, He will direct your paths, and He will provide the help you need today and even right now. So briefly, to summarize these top recovery slogans for help today, they are: the first slogan for help today is "Keep it simple." The second slogan for help today is "It is the first drink that gets you drunk." The third slogan for help today is "Help is only a phone call away." The fourth slogan for help today is "Nothing is so bad a drink won't make worse." And the fifth slogan for help today is "I can't, He can, I think I'll let Him." That is what I have for you today. Thank you very much for joining me on the Hope Recovery Podcast. And remember, there is always hope with God. Take care, and God bless you all. That concludes the podcast episode for today. But if I may, let me remind you, if you are interested in more faith-based recovery resources for your recovery house or group or church or ministry, please see the website at www.HopeRecoveryUs. And if there is any way I can help you or your recovery group or recovery ministry, please feel free to email me at HopeRecoveryUs@gmail.com, and I would be happy to talk with you further. And again, take care, and God bless you all.